Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Andy Mackensen, who is co-founder and CMO at SnackNation. Andy, how you doing today?
What is happening, Nikki? I'm doing well. How are you?
I like when people return the sunshine. It's already fun. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited to talk about what you're going to help us dig into today. We're going to be talking about not just the importance of copywriting in sales and marketing, but some things folks get wrong, why it's not as emphasized as it should be, and all of that. It's personally interesting to me because some of you may know my background is in journalism. And so at heart, I am a copywriter, but sales a lot of the time takes you far away from me. You don't always get to engage with that part of yourself as much. So you're a man of my own heart. But before we get into that stuff, Andy, I would love it if you would just give us all a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at SnackNation are up to these days.
Well, hey, SnackNation is America's #1 office snack delivery experience, plain and simple. So what we do is we discover the newest emerging snacks that are on the market. And by the way, there's thousands of them out there. And we have a proprietary taste testing process where we bring these snacks in-house. We put them through a 5-point checklist, determine which snacks are the best, and then we curate them into boxes, ship them out to all 50 states to over 5,000 businesses nationwide. And then all of the employees get amazing, delicious snacks in the workplace to help improve morale, boost productivity, and basically have a really badass time at work. That's pretty much SnackNation in a nutshell.
Yeah, you just described an actual SnackNation, and I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know that so much went into it. I'm pretty sure that SnackNation is how I discovered, what's the popcorn in the purple bag? And it's like a kettle corn. Oh,
is it Oogles?
No,
they have
something else.
Okay. Yeah,
anyway.
There's like I said, it is absolutely mind-blowing how many new emerging snacks are coming out every day. It's a very fast-paced industry right now.
Yeah, my mind is literally blown by the fact that such a volume of snacks exist. Yes. But what we're going to really deal with today, thanks for letting us know who you are and what you do. And in what you do, the success has got to have, some of that ode to the premium put on copywriting and put on the importance of knowing how to craft a good message. So that's why I'm excited to hear you talk about this today. But to frame up this conversation, first talk to us about why more people aren't having this conversation, why you don't think when we're training, particularly salespeople and sometimes marketers, why there isn't more of an emphasis on copywriting.
Yeah, I don't think it's on people's radar. Copywriting, the origins of copywriting, at least for direct response marketing, it goes way back to the early 1900s. You've got greats like Claude Hopkins, where he was helping sell Schlitz beer. And you've got Eugene Schwartz in the 60s and, Ogilvy and all these names of phenomenal copywriters that were able to craft words on paper to get people to feel a certain way and then to take action to buy a product. And now, I think in today's age with the internet, and it being so easy to just say, hey, I'm going to throw up an ad on Instagram, or I'm going to jot down something really quick and put it up on AdWords and, and see if that's going to, generate some clicks. I just don't think that the training and the understanding of how important and how powerful copywriting is, I just don't think it's pervasive in today's marketing and sales cultures. And that gives a big opportunity for organizations who do understand the power of copywriting to study it and deploy it smartly.
Sounds like what you described is it's not only that it's not pervasive in sales and marketing culture, it's not pervasive in culture, period, anymore.
Not really. Yeah, right? You're right.
And so you got these kids with their machines now. You got folks being so used to communicating in such an instant and abbreviated way that, it's pretty easy for that, I would call the art of it, to get lost, because we don't really reward people for that kind of thing anymore. Socially, we don't. In fact, the more words you use and the prettier they are, a lot of the time you run the risk of alienating more people.
That's right. So, a lot of marketers think like cutesy statements and, cute subject lines on emails. And, Ogilvy said back in the 60s, don't be cute, be very clear and be very direct in the words that you choose.
I love it. You took such a firm stance on that. It gave me chills. Seriously, because I fall into this trap a lot. As much as I have this, my kids hate it, but as much as I have this love and respect for language and what it can do to really move people to act like you talked about, because I'm 38 years old and getting up there, there is this pressure to give in to the cute and to sort of lean into that, because, that's going to be the quicker win, but not necessarily is what it sounds like you're talking about. And I think you're right when you talk about why it's not so emphasized. So let's say folks listening are with us and they've agreed that, yes, this is something we need to start to emphasize more. Where would you begin? Right. Mm-hmm. In all of the channels where there's opportunity to really go all in on your copywriting and honing and mastering that skill, be it email or your social, where would you start?
Yeah, well, the first place to start is study the greats. All right, stand on the shoulders of giants. There's, we look at how we can very quickly, I mentioned AdWords and Instagram and whatnot. Like, you can put 2 ads on AdWords and split test them and get results and find something out in, depending on how much you're spending and what the traffic is, a couple hours, maybe even less if you're spending a lot. Think about what the direct mail marketers in the early 1900s had to do in order to get split test results. They had to figure out not only what to write and get the copywriting down, typically in long form letters. They then had to put those letters in envelopes, apply stamps to them, get all the addresses down, acquire the list, send the mailers out. And then the prospect, when they received the mailer, they had to cut out a Johnson box, which is like a dotted line coupon. You had to cut it out. You had to fill in your name and information with pen. You had to include a check with payment. You had to take that, stick it in an envelope, write the return address, put a stamp on it, and get it back in the mail. Look at how hard that is. And so these direct mail marketers back in the 1900s, it would take 2 to 4 months sometimes to get all of to get enough response back to say, okay, the campaign is done. Now let's tally the results and see what happens. So the speed at which we can do things today is mind blowing. And so when I say go back to the greats, they had to think so long and hard about what do we write? This is expensive. We can't just write anything down and then just send it out. They really, really had to think about it. And so they've learned a lot. They spent a lot of money on testing. And so all of the results that came back in the early 1900s is based on human psychology. And by the way, doesn't matter whether it's direct mail, internet, telephone, human psychology has not changed in 100 years. We're all still humans and we all still think the same way. And we all have the same motivators. We're trying to go towards happiness and away from fear. At least that's most of us. So when I say go back to the greats, study Claude Hopkins. He wrote a book in, I think it was 1924, called Scientific Advertising. He was one of the first pioneers to figure out the direct mail and how to measure the results. Study Eugene Schwartz from the 1960s. There's a book called Breakthrough Advertising. Study David Ogilvy on advertising. Study Dan Kennedy. He's more recent, more 90s and 2000s. He was really good at writing sales letters and doing direct response copy. Once you have a good basis of studying all the greats, then you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just,
Right.
You have a basis of where to start. Then once you've studied the greats, I would recommend actually writing out sales letters. So that's where you really learn to craft the copy, is through writing your own sales letters. And Dan Kennedy has a great book called The Ultimate Sales Letter, where you can learn the different formats. But it teaches you, hey, write a headline, how to write a subhead, how to have appeal, how to have interest, all those things. And once you actually get practice of writing your own sales letters, then you can start applying those principles to something that's a little bit shorter and a little bit easier. For example, email subject lines, or how about a hook, like your AdWords, the first line on your AdWords ad, things like that. But you got to understand what direct response copy is and what garners action from people. And that's the way you do it.
So, and what you were saying kind of leads into my next question, which is, to what extent do you think just a talent for copywriting is exaggerated versus, it being a really learnable skill? I have a hunch that a lot of folks who don't, emphasize it is because they think you have to naturally be good at writing, or naturally be good at engaging people that way in the first place before you can be effective. What do you think about that?
I'm really glad you brought that question up, because you're so there was an implied point in there. And the point is that most of copywriting is actually, I believe it's not talent. Like, I think it helps to have some talent with writing, but you can still be a great copywriter even if you don't know how to write. And the reason I say that is because great copywriters, they're not writing a whole bunch of brand new copy. What they're doing is swiping ideas from other copywriters and other sales letters. Remember all the greats. They've written a lot of stuff. There's so many different swipe files out there, and ads that you can look at, and ideas that you can look at. You can go look at old magazines and see if an ad's been running for 12 months straight, that it's working and it's making money. Go study those ads and see what you think are the factors that are making, those ads stay in that magazine, and that the company is paying for that ad continuously. It has to be working, and there's insights there. And so a good copywriter is actually looking at all of the copy that has been written before and actually piecing it together. So a good copywriter is not actually like a journalist. It's more of like a detective, and like saying, hey, what is important to people, and how can we say this the right way? And then using other ads out there that have those words in them.
Right. So treating it as studying the data points, basically.
Yes, it's a formula.
It's a formula.
You know what it reminds me of? Sales letter is a formula.
It sounds like back in the Motown days, right? You hear a lot of songs from that era with the song "Baby" in them, right? And
Sure do.
It's easy to think about that as just a coincidence, but I think you and I know it's not, right? They studied that as a data point. Like, what are the words in songs that people are responding to? How much more, and more quickly are people buying these records with the word "baby" in it specifically than not? And then you're, like you said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You kind of have your foundation for how to write this song already. You just know that you got to be talking about your baby. And I'm hearing that and what you're saying. And I love it, because to be honest with you, Andy, have fallen into this trap of romanticizing copywriting. I've seen every single episode of Mad Men at least 3 times. And it's not that I wanted to be Peggy. I wanted to be Dawn. And he's painted as this figure that does have this like supernatural talent for writing copy, for knowing which words will move people. And I think a part of all of us kind of wants to be that. But then if you get too wrapped up in that, as I am guilty of, then you overthink it and you don't produce. You end up not putting anything out. You end up, like I talked about before, like I confessed to you before, just, copping out and going for what's cute, right?
Absolutely. And when I was talking about the formula, here's an example. I just typed in, I've got a list of power words that I have in Evernote. So, even if for, some direct takeaways, if someone wants to insert some of these words into their existing ad copy, these words work really well. Remarkable, amazing, easy, quick, revolutionary, suddenly. So these are Ogilvy's influential words. And if you want to insert some of those, you'll immediately improve the power of your copy. And look at that. You didn't have to be a journalist or a writer. You just grab some of those words and put them in.
I love it. I love it so much. Listen, thank you for giving us these real, digestible, applicable ways to think about copywriting and making it a little bit less scary. What I think I want to do, I'm just going to bounce this idea off of you while I got you here. I'm obviously not going to stop what I've been doing, right? We all have, we salespeople, we have our outreach sequences built in with its level of automation that helps us be able to just get through a day and not go crazy. But what I want to challenge myself to do, and I'm not quite sure what it looks like because this idea is forming as I'm speaking it to you, is I'm going to think about 10 top accounts that I want to reach out to. And I'm going to practice writing sales letters to those accounts and then just see what happens, see what the response is, see how I feel about what words this evokes from me and what folks are responding to, and then use those data points. And like you talked about, apply it to the shorter form and the more automated things that I'm doing. Have you done, is that what you did? Is that kind of what you just recommended? Am I crazy? What do you think about this?
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, so there's a difference between a long form sales letter that you are sending out to a consumer to basically prep them and get them interested in buying a consumer product, and what you just mentioned, outreach, which is like B2B, email marketing to get an appointment. So in terms of copywriting for like B2B outbound emails, I actually think shorter is better. And in terms of subject lines, like make them curiosity driven. Don't give the answer in the subject line, or else there's no reason to actually open the email. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see is people make a subject line where there's no reason to actually open the email. So, some of the subject lines we've used in the past that work really well is literally just, hey, H-E-Y. Think about how you'd write an email to a friend. You wouldn't say, here are the top 3 ways to increase sales in 2019. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, you would never write that to a friend. So think about the friend factor and being colloquial. There are different styles. My style is let's be more friendly and colloquial and not be formal corporate. The other thing I hate, and people can battle me on this all the time, is I'm not a big fan of HTML emails. Now, maybe for a B2C brand that you're trying to grow a B2C brand, but with B2B emails, keep them text based, keep them write like you talk. If you're going to say have to, say gotta. Be very friendly and colloquial, and you'll get more response from your emails.
I love it. I love it so much. So now, Andy, that, I've successfully picked your brain and seen all the wonderful things I could get out of it, it is time for you to tell us about what you are putting in it. So talk about some resource that you have engaged with here that's informing your approach that's just got you excited these days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned, look, if this is all about copywriting and you're going to zone in on copywriting, I mean, the books I already are absolute definites. So Scientific Advertising, by Claude Hopkins, Eugene Schwartz, hard to get book, but I think it's going back into print. It's called Breakthrough Advertising. Dan Kennedy's The Ultimate Sales Letter. Those are all fun. John Caples has a book out, and I'm now blanking on it. I've read it cover to cover, but those are the core copywriting books. In terms of podcasts and whatnot, man, I listen to way too many podcasts. But you know what's actually good for copywriting is listen to Seeking Wisdom by Drift. Drift is a B2B conversational marketing company, but they're really big on direct response marketing, and you'll learn a lot about copy and psychology by listening to their podcast.
Sounds good, man. So I know that everybody listening and learning from you today has become a fast fan of yours. They're going to want to know how to keep up with you. And you tell the folks how they can connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, Andy Mackensen. Usually people murder my last name, so it's spelled Mackensen. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the best channel to hit me up on.
Got it.
And then also, hey, a little value bomb. If anyone, I just realized this, if anyone's listening and they have 10 or more employees in their office, we can actually give away a free snack box to their office. Just go to snacknation.com/free123. That's /free123 and opt in for a free snack box.
Nice. Thanks for that, man. Hey, listen, the folks listening don't know this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell them he's got lots of value bombs. He's got, in terms of like things that Andy can talk to us about that we can implement. And we just chose copywriting for today. What I'm saying is I'm going to have you back on the show. So you're going to have to suffer through another conversation with me. Sorry, not sorry. But for now, we'll close this one out. And I'll just say thank you so much for laying this out for us today and coming and talking to us about the importance of copywriting.
Absolutely. If you're talking about underwater basket weaving, I am an expert. So happy to talk about that next.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, thanks.
If you're a regular listener of B2B Growth, odds are you might enjoy sales success stories with Scott Ingram as well. Well, this year, thanks to a partnership with Outreach and Sales Hacker, our friend Scott Ingram is making the live stream of his Sales Success Summit available for free. The event is on October 14th and 15th, featuring 13 presentations and 5 panels, all presented by top-performing B2B sales professionals. You can check it out and register at top1.fm/live. That's top1.fm/live.